everybody. Welcome to Branding Bud Live, the live stream that's 100% THC, 0% WTF. Every week we bring cannabis people together to talk about the business of cannabis. I'm David Palashuk, the founder of the Branding Bud Consulting Group and the author of Branding Bud, The Commercialization of Cannabis, the first book on cannabis branding. And I'm here with my best cannabis friend and co-host Adriana Hemans, a marketing executive with over 8 long years experience in the cannabis space. Hey, Adriana, how are you?
8 long years. Thank you, David. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I am doing well.
Awesome.
It is, what is it? Another Thursday. I can't believe we are in March already.
I know, it's so wild. I'm so happy that we're seeing our friends again, trickling into the chat. I love seeing familiar faces and also some new faces. Marco from Taipei, welcome. Branding Bud Live is going international, not only with our attendees, but with also where we're going to be broadcasting from next week. So we'll share a little bit more about that in a little bit. Super exciting. If you're just joining us for the first time, we really encourage audience participation. So not only do we like to talk to guests who are people who are launching brands and building brands and really making their mark on the industry, we also want to build community. It's not just about David and I up here talking and our guests up here talking. It's about all of us together building something and making the industry a better place to work and live and connect. So feel free to say hi, tell us where you're from. And just for fun, tell us a destination you've always wanted to visit and have never been to. Mine is Japan. So yeah, curious where you're all interested in visiting.
And speaking of international and bridging this gap and the cannabis crossover that we always talk about, I'm pleased to see, and he's probably listening to both LinkedIn and Clubhouse, which I have running right now as well, is Marco from Taipei. So I'm really glad to see that that some of the folks that listen in on Clubhouse and have been long listeners actually have jumped over to join the video side of things and participate in the conversation. That's pretty cool. Well, we've got Toronto in the house as well, Canada, and we are going international, and I'm excited. I've got some bags to pack, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. We've got a really great show today, and look, Aaron, our friend.
Oh, Aaron, going to Japan and Thailand. I didn't even know that you got married, Aaron. Congratulations.
He didn't yet. He's getting married.
Nice.
That's right. Well, that's probably more important than going away. But that's a three wonderful things: Japan, Thailand, and a honeymoon. So we've got a really cool show today. It's called Outlaw Brands, Backstories and Bad Guys. And we're going to be talking about outlaw brands. We always talk about branding. We try to connect cannabis branding to the real world of branding. We try to take the skills and lessons that we've learned from the past and in our marketing and branding careers and apply them to the cannabis space. So today what's interesting is we'll be talking about outlaw brands, and we actually have a real outlaw that will be joining us. He's not a branding expert, but when you walk the walk and do what he's done and experience what he's done, it's pretty cool. So that said, we've got a whole bunch of things we'll be addressing today. So what exactly is an outlaw brand, and why does it appeal to consumers? We see this over and over again. We always, people root for maybe not necessarily the bad guy, but the outlaw. There's always something about that. Is there more than one type?
About American culture too. Sorry to interrupt you, David. We're just really obsessed with the cowboy and the mobster and this idea of the person on the fringes of society who can come in and make big changes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just ingrained in our culture.
Absolutely. Which sort of comes back to, is there more than one type of outlaw brand, which we'll talk about a little bit. And then once our guest joins us, which will be a little bit later in the show, we're going to ask him, what's it like to spend 11 years in jail for cannabis smuggling, only to end up owning a legal cannabis brand 50 years later. That is I guess a life circle that has come full round, and I'm really curious to hear the answer to to that question. So that said, let's talk about our guest for a minute. Then we're going to get into a video reel, which really, sort of gives his background and story. And then finally, we will introduce Barry. So our guest today is Barry Foy. Barry is the kingpin of the Gentlemen Smugglers. That's his brand. He is one of a small group of friends from South Carolina who launched a global cannabis smuggling ring in the 1970s before getting caught up in Operation Jackpot, the first presidential sting on the war on drugs. Barry was tagged with the federal kingpin statute and spent 11 years in prison. 50 years later, Barry and his friends return older and wiser, and yet they've never lost their rogue spirit, their belief in the plant, or sense of humor, as we'll see today. So we're super excited to chat with Barry, but before we do, we're going to take a look at a video, and we're going to get back to actually some of the international questions that just came up that Adriana asked. So Ruth is going to Israel and Rome in 3 weeks. I think people are getting their travel back on, Adriana. That's what
it's the year of revenge travel, or that's what they said last year, I guess.
Revenge travel, okay.
Yeah, you've been stuck at home for 2 years. Time to go big.
You're right. Cheers to that.
All right, so why don't we go ahead and play that video? It's about 3 minutes long. It'll really kind of set the stage for what we're talking about here, because it tells a little bit about the history, and it tells a little bit about just who we're talking to and outlaw brands in general. I think it's a great example of that.
Absolutely. And just quickly, know that we'll be muted while the 3-minute video plays. So check it out. And then after that, we'll get into the show. Enjoy it.
I got 12,000 pounds of weed stashed in my mom's basement. There's a slight chance somewhere down the road that's probably going to be a problem.
At 21, I made my first million. How did I make my first million? Smuggling pot.
The demand was there. I mean, we tried to fill it. In New York City, we smoked an average of a ton of marijuana a day.
I think of excitement. I think of adventure.
It's very seldom in a man's life when you get a shot to make you a lot of money.
Barry Foy and company were known as the Gentlemen Smugglers.
Asshole or gentleman sure sounds a whole lot better to me.
So the law enforcement here in the state coined you guys the Gentlemen Smugglers because of your propensity for nonviolence.
There was an all-female crew. They decided they wanted to give it a shot, and we go ahead.
It was very unusual to see a woman captain. We weren't just sailing, we were smuggling. I probably started about 17, 18 years old, and I would count money and sit on stash homes.
Once things got started, they moved fast.
These were jet setters. They traveled the globe.
Man, this is a ride. I'm going to ride this son of a bitch until the wave breaks up on the beach.
Did you fully believe, like, they're not going to get me?
Well,
I didn't really give a shit if I got busted.
when you own that pony, you got to ride that pony.
Barry, Les, Henry, and I all went to high school and college together. The fact that Henry's the one that brought us down was a little more than ironic.
These guys are childhood friends. One became a governor.
One became a kingpin. The opportunity presented itself, and I said, what the fuck are we waiting for? Let's go. The Bahamas, Jamaica, South America, Lebanon.
So it could even be said that y'all stopped a civil war going on between the military and rebel forces in Lebanon and Beirut, paying each side $1 million with a briefcase full of money for a ceasefire long enough to get in and out of your boat and get out of there.
When the feds are chasing you, it's like a pack of wolves. They don't give up.
If we got caught, we break out of prison, which happened more than once.
They were always a step ahead, but we were gaining.
It's a drug story, but it's much bigger than that.
It was definitely political, there's no doubt about it.
Operation Jackpot was the first federal sting during Reagan's war on drugs.
Drugs are menacing our society. They're threatening our values and undercutting our institutions.
So these guys lived in the moment. They thought they could get away with it. You can't help but root for them.
The art of the whole thing was pulling it off and breaking the law. The what the fuck was when you knew you beat the man.
I got my own world to live through, and I ain't gonna
Awesome.
Yeah.
That was such a cool video. I love the part where he said you can't help but root for them. I feel like that really encapsulates what it is to feel connected to an outlaw brand.
You are absolutely right. Well, that said, let's bring out the kingpin, Barry Foy.
The kingpin himself. Welcome, Barry.
Hi,
Hello,
guys.
sir.
How you doing today?
Doing great. Awesome to have you here.
Yeah.
I love the part in the video where you talked about you have to ride that pony. So tell us, what have you been up to? What ponies are you riding these days?
Well, we've been mostly riding recently up in Massachusetts. That's where the action is for us at the moment. You know, we launched a cannabis brand in Massachusetts in September of 22. And it's been quite an adventure there. We love Massachusetts, and we're doing well. We're maybe in 50, 60 dispensaries already. I'll be going up next week to the NECAN event in Boston. Mm-hmm. I'm sure y'all familiar with that, and we'll be spreading the word and pushing the brand. And I've really got a lot of good feedback. I love the people in Massachusetts. They're very friendly. They love the brand, and they love the backstory. And so I'm right at home there.
That's perfect. You know, just you mentioned Massachusetts off the bat, and loving the backstory. Are there places you found, you know, that love the story more? I think everybody loves the story. It's hard not to be intrigued by the story, but you know, do you find love a little more in certain places?
You know, it seems to come out for me when I'm in the dispensaries. If I want to kind of narrow this down, when the people come in and I meet them face to face, I feel like they really kind of get the feeling of what's going on because we share stories. Everybody has a story in this space that has been a cannabis user, who has been a cannabis user as I have for years. They have the little stories of how they just got away or they almost got caught. And have I tried this? And thank you for what you've done over the years and the time you spent in prison for getting us, the people, to where we're at today, where we can actually go in and buy in a dispensary without looking over our shoulders that somebody's going to be, you know, putting handcuffs on us. And so, you know, we pushed that envelope back in the day when there were no legal states. And so, especially sometimes I'd say the older generation who had been through the oppressive days and had felt that for years of buying cannabis wherever they could find it, they have a certain appreciation for what people like myself have brought to the business today. And I feel that warmness, the camaraderie of telling each other stories when I run into people in dispensaries doing pop-ups. So if I had to answer that, it would be when I'm actually in the stores and people are coming in to purchase. And so it's really a lot of fun to meet face to face with people today and share stories.
And that's what it's really all about, right? It's that connection. Let's jump. Forgive me. I think I actually jumped ahead a little bit before we get into like today meeting consumers face to face and sharing your story. Let me just ask it this way: How does one, or how did you end up with a group of friends in a smuggling ring, smuggling cannabis? How does that happen?
It takes a minute. It's a process. I started out, you know, in a small way in my hometown back in the late 60s, early 70s, and started to go on these trips to Jamaica kind of on my own to do some research, and then gathered my close friends around, and they were excited about what I had found when I was there in Jamaica, and we decided to give it a shot. And we actually had some mishaps early on, but we learned from those mishaps. And I got lucky living in Florida at the time, met somebody with a small sailboat, and told them what I had found, and they were all on board, so to speak, and away we went. And it was kind of by accident in a lot of ways. Obviously, it's nothing that there was no book written on how to do these things, and so it was all improv as you went along. And it was at that age, I was in my very early 20s, and it was an adventure. And who doesn't like to go on an adventure on the high seas, And there is a benefit at the end. Maybe you make some money. And everybody gets to partake and enjoy the plant as the end result. And so that kind of drove that feeling. And then once we did a couple of smuggling runs, people were like, gosh, this is great. Can you get some more? And it was almost like the word spread. And it was like, go, it was like encouragement. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it got started. There was very little negative feelings involved. It was all positive, and that kind of drove the adventure into bigger and bigger.
It really is like you lived a movie, Barry, which there's probably a villain to this story. So let's hear about it. What is Operation Jackpot? Tell us what happened there.
Well, Jackpot was a name that was given to the feds getting in on trying to stop us from what we were doing. I think it was a local newspaper that came up with the jackpot, and so it became Operation Jackpot, which is kind of a catchy name in itself, and we've always embraced it. I like the name. I didn't like what happened, obviously, at the end of that, but love the name. And so it's kind of been something that we've kept with us for years. And we were part of that jackpot. It was a long investigation by the feds, FBI, DEA, U.S. Customs, Coast Guard, U.S. Marshals, IRS. It went on and on and on. And they finally ran us down in Operation Jackpot over the years. It took that many agencies. We were fairly sophisticated, and it all kind of ended in, I'd say, 1985 is when it was over. But it was kind of an unusual situation because most of these agencies never worked together, and they came together on this particular situation with us, and they eventually ran us down. I don't think anybody hardly gets away when the feds start chasing you and trying to stop what was going on, which, as we all know, that was not possible. And here we are today in a legal world, and it's quite a 180-degree turn for sure, from Operation Jackpot to Gentlemen Smugglers Cannabis brand today. So that's kind of the backstory on Jackpot itself. It's still talked about here. And then I talk about it as well whenever I go to the dispensaries in Massachusetts. We'll soon be going to, hopefully, Missouri, which is a new state that came on this year. We'll hopefully be in New Jersey and New York telling the story as well, everywhere. So, that's Jackpot. And we love the name. I mean, who doesn't like a jackpot? The end of the rainbow.
Actually, as you're saying, I'm thinking to myself, the name Jackpot is perfect for a cannabis brand, right? So
could be, yeah.
There you go. It has the word pot in it.
I like that, David.
Those are your pre-rolls, right? The Gentlemen Smugglers Jackpot. So that's an amazing story, and man, I could spend hours with you just chatting about this. Let's kind of link it back to to outlaw brands, and let's just talk about outlaw brands for a moment, because I think they're more complex than we think. At first, it's like, oh yeah, outlaw brand, I kind of get it. But I think, let's just bear with me here. So an outlaw brand, just to level set, an outlaw brand archetype taps into our deep desire for nonconformity to the point of rebellion, and I think that's kind of cool. To the point of rebellion, right? Everybody has different points along the way, and everybody in their, I don't know, in their rebellion sort of stand for different things in different ways. So I'm curious to talk about that a little bit. But the outlaw throws aside societal norms and seeks to destroy, if only to build things up again the way they should be. And I think that's the key right there to why an outlaw can also be a hero. There's something really intriguing that I think that appeals to most of us. So that said, outlaws are disruptive, they're combative, they're rebellious. But I think if we can't reach the inner, outlaw within us, we really like to see it in other people. And I think that's why, Gary, your story completely resonates, especially in the cannabis space, right? Because even consuming cannabis, for those people that have done it over the years, certainly that's been a part of my rebellious side. Nobody has to really know about it, or my other rebellious friends, in my case, skateboarders, but that's what I shared with them. That was my shared experience, and cannabis was part of that. So it's interesting to see this, and it's interesting to see how everybody appeals to it so much. Adriana, you recently ran a poll on LinkedIn, asking people about outlaw brands, and what was their favorite one, or what was the one that stood out to them. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So, and I think this ties into what we're about to talk about. There is not only just one type of outlaw brand, but there's actually a few. So I found some examples and made a poll and posted it to my network on LinkedIn, there's a lot of cannabis people, also people from, Insights and other marketing folks, but majority cannabis folks, I would say. And I asked them, what is your favorite outlaw brand? And there were 4 choices. Virgin, Richard Branson's brand. Marlboro is the second option. Harley Davidson or MTV. And there was one clear favorite. Can you guess which one it was?
What could it be? Audience, this is your chance to shine.
Take a guess. This is an impromptu Canna Choice audience participation round. There were 4 choices: MTV, Harley Davidson, Marlboro, and Virgin. Guess which one was most popular amongst our cannabis LinkedIn family? Skylar guessed Harley. Very good guess.
It also seems really generational too, Adriana, in a way.
Yeah.
Marlboro, sure, maybe in the 50s and 60s, people sort of, saw it in a different way than they see it now too.
Yeah. The people who guessed Harley, you're absolutely right. Out of our 50 votes, 42 put Harley Davidson. And the second runner-up was Virgin. And then MTV and Marlboro were tied for 16%, which I was kind of surprised. I thought Marlboro would not even get any votes at all. I guess people don't really like the direction that MTV went into, but that's a whole other topic.
That's a whole other show. And of course, Justin Johnson with the write-in, Gentlemen Smugglers. Thank you, Justin.
All right, Justin.
That's pretty funny. So I'm curious, looking back, on your history, and now sort of seeing what's taking place with legalization, what's taking place with decriminalization. What are your thoughts on that? What are your feelings on that?
It's mixed, but it's also kind of satisfying that it's come, like I said, full circle 180 to where it doesn't seem like what I did and the guys I worked with did, and all the other people who smuggled cannabis back in the day. It seems that there's a positive outcome. That even though it was tough, a lot of people in prison, a lot of people did prison time, to get us to where we at today. So I think it's just I think it's great that we're finally breaking through and breaking out of this mold that the government put us in for so many years with disinformation, lies, jail time, intimidation, what have you, that we, the people, have been able to overcome that. And we've been able to, look into a more positive way of thinking about this. And it's been through people like y'all putting on a show. It's been through education. It's been through all the other folks out there that have driven this plant to get to a place that we feel comfortable with it, and we can use it with freedom. We can use it without intimidation. We can use it without worrying about somebody knocking on our door, hey, and the door breaks open and you go to jail. We're finally getting out of that, but it's tough to overcome the government. They're very powerful. They're everywhere. They have a lot of money to run their story onto us as the public. And so I think that looking back now and that we're in a good place, and it's only going to get better. And thank y'all for what you do to spread the word. That's what it's about: education, bringing the community together to understand that this is a plant that has many great uses medicinally, especially, and that we as a people should be free to exercise our right to use the plant.
Absolutely. And thank you for what you do, Barry. I know that part of your story is you really were, an early victim of the war on drugs and had to spend 11 years in jail, which is such an interesting and dramatic change that took place over your life. And I'm curious to know, how did that inform your outlook, and how did that help to inform your approach to building a brand or running a business?
Well, I think it's something that I never imagined, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, that I would be in this position. As things started to develop in California, Colorado, and you guys on the West Coast pushed the envelope, I started to realize that maybe one day it'd be a possibility that I could get back into the business, this time on the legal side. And so that's, something that I guess, I've been prepared to do this for so long. I don't know too many people that have been in the business as long as I have. I'm counting about 50 years now. And so I'm just happy that we're where we are today, and we're starting to gain more freedom in using the plant, and we're on the right path. And so I think I don't have any bad feelings about what happened in the past to me. I kind of accepted it and tried to make the best of it and move forward. I know when I was in prison, I finished college, and I tried to stay busy, and so I'm not really bitter about the past, the years I spent behind bars, and so I'm just glad that we're kind of at the place we are today, and then I can continue forward with what I kind of started in the 70s, and I feel blessed to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's thank you for sharing that. I've certainly never been in a situation like that, but dare I even say it's almost a bittersweet situation. You paid your time. In a weird way, you're saying, or perhaps you're saying, why aren't other people paying their time? Yet we're really in a much better situation for everybody. So you kind of hold your breath and say, wait, we've just light years ahead and leap years ahead. So, yeah, for everybody, right? And I also know that you participate, with the Last Prisoner Project, and you do other things to, to bring that home. It's not like you ran from the prison, and never looked back. I mean, you ran from the prison, and you're like, all right, what can we do? What can we do to change this? How can we support others in similar situations? So, so kudos to you, and thank you for doing what you do.
We're still there's still people behind bars that need to gain their freedom, and so I think one of the most active groups is definitely the Last Prisoner Project, and we're behind them 100%. That's a wonderful group, and they do so much for people who are trying to get out, and also for the families of the folks that are still behind bars for cannabis reasons. And so they bring a lot to the table, and that's what it takes. And it's a very arduous, tough situation to get people out of jail once they're in jail, because the wheels of justice turn slow no matter what you're in for. So hopefully, as these states come on and become legal states, people will gradually be released, and not soon enough.
Yeah. Well, so the show is called Branding Bud Live, and going from that topic, transitioning over to the outlaw brand is a tough bridge for me to make, because one is so serious and one is about branding and marketing. But that said, I guess that's my awkward segue into our next slide, which talks about the different types of outlaw brands and how we sort of look at people. So let's just take a look at that. Let's say Can of Truth. Well, we're going to do a Can of Truth, but I think we're running fast on time. So we were going to ask everybody how many types of outlaw brands there are, and we were going to ask you all that, but we're jumping ahead right now just because of time. So there are 5 types of outlaw brands. The first one is a rebel brand. So the rebel brand is a rule breaker, a risk taker, fed up with convention. The rebel pushes the envelope to bring out change, social change, with a fresh perspective or a reawakening. The activist, maybe just slightly different. The activist fights for a cause, somebody that we can join with and feel good in joining them. The gambler, which is really interesting, because Barry, I was thinking the risk. Man, the story you painted was beautiful and adventurous, and didn't really talk about the risk side. So the gambler is sort of something I always think about, with an outlaw brand. And then the maverick, right? The free-thinking maverick rejects any sort of label or constraint, typically going against the grain. I get the sense, Barry, you've got a maverick streak in you. And then really the reformer, right? Which is a watchdog or a whistleblower, or maybe even the underdog, or that sort of feel to it. So it's really interesting, just from a branding perspective, how these things sort of come together, or can come together, and how people can really leverage a bad guy story into a good guy story, into a hero story, into the underdog story. And I think, to be honest with you, I think you've got that. I mean, you've put in the time, both in the industry and both in jail, I'm sorry to say. But now I think you're just in an amazing spot to, I guess I want to say capitalize on that, but it's more than that. It's more than that. It's to, do the good things you're doing, and we appreciate that.
And be the reformer.
That's right, the reformer.
Looks like I feel all the 1 through 5.
I was about to say the same thing.
I love it.
Yes, exactly.
I would say you definitely have to be a risk taker to do some of the things that we've done, and that's for sure. And a gambler as well. So we're even in the business today. It is a gamble because of the regulations are very tough in these states. The taxes are high, and so all that is something that we're trying to overcome as well. Is not to be taxed out of the business or regulated out of the business.
Right. A lot of regulation
too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also a topic that's pretty near and dear to my heart, working at Chorus Compliance, but we'll get into more of that probably in another episode. I can't believe we're already close to the end of the show. So I just wanted to, first of all, thank you, Barry, and also ask you one last question. And that is about a recommendation. We'd love to hear from our guests. If there's a book, a movie, or an experience that you would recommend for our audience and for us, we want to hear it too.
Well, the experience would be to continue to do what y'all are doing and push the envelope to get the word out, have people on in the cannabis business, have people that have cannabis experiences like myself to come on to share with the public. To me, that's the biggest thing we can do right now, is to do what y'all are doing. And as far as a book goes, read Operation Jackpot. This is the book about the Gentlemen Smugglers, written by Jason Ryan. He would not like it if I didn't mention the book, which really started the whole movement for us 10 or 12 years ago, the book Jackpot. So it's out there. You can get it anywhere, Amazon, your bookstores. So that would be my book. And it's a great book.
Well, we're going to definitely check that out. Barry, thank you so much for spending time with us today, and so much more beyond that. It almost seems silly for me to thank you for spending time with us today when you've spent time, pushing for us, pushing the envelope for us. So we thank you for all you've done. We thank you for all you continue to do. We're here to help you. We're here to support you and Gentlemen Smugglers, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Adriana. I appreciate it.
Right on. Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks, Barry.
Okay, see you guys.
Right on. Wow. All right. Well, there's another 45-minute show that just goes by, and can you believe we're already into March? I am super excited about our show next week. I will be leaving in a day or so and heading out to Thailand to check out what's going on in Thailand. And cannabis has been legal for the last 8 months. And there's already over 900 dispensaries just in Bangkok alone. I won't be able to cover all of them, but I will certainly do my best. So we're really excited, and we will be connecting live from Bangkok next week, Thursday, March 9th, same time, same channel, same station, which is Thursday at 11 a.m. PST, 2 p.m. EST. Adriano and I will be chatting about what's going on in Thailand. So we hope you'll join us. And outside of that, check out the link that was posted earlier. And finally, don't forget to check out brandingbud.com, cannabis's best kept secret. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week from Thailand.
See you next week. Bye.